Hi, friends. I'm so happy you're joining me for this conversation today. Welcome to the first episode of Existential Espresso, a podcast where I talk about navigating adulthood one lesson at a time. I am your host, Ella, and today we will explore the world of MBTI and how it applies to our daily lives and interpersonal relationships. For those that don't know, you may be wondering, what is MBTI? MBTI stands for Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. It is a personality assessment tool that identifies 16 different personality types based on 4 preference pairs: extroversion, introversion, sensing and intuition, thinking and feeling, and lastly, judging and perceiving. It was developed by Isabel Myers and her mother, Catherine Briggs. MBTI aims to help individuals understand their personality, strengths, and how they interact with others and the world around them. And with that, let's get into the letters. The first letter indicates where you focus your energy. You can either get an I or an E. I standing for introversion or E standing for extroversion. For I's, introverts prefer to focus on their own thoughts and inner experiences. Introverts direct their energy and attention inwards and gain energy reflecting on past memories and their own emotions. On the other hand, extroverts prefer to engage with other people and focus on the outside world. They direct their energy and attention outwards and gain energy from interacting with others. For my personal MBTI, my first letter is an I. I like to recharge by spending time alone, and I often find that it is necessary for me in order to present my best self in future occasions. However, one thing that I notice about being an introvert is that I tend to overthink and worry about the future a lot. I believe it's mostly because if I start to overthink, it just continues to snowball because I focus on my own thoughts and experience, even if it's not entirely true. So on that note, for those that haven't taken their MBTI personality test yet, let me ask you 2 questions that can get you start thinking about which one you are. The first question is, where do you think you direct your attention to? And the second one is, what is your source of energy? Next, the second letter indicates how you perceive your information. You can either be an S or an N. S stands for sensing. This is how do we observe the world with our 5 senses. A person with S in their MBTI focus on facts, details, and concrete information. On the other hand, N stands for intuition. A person with N in their MBTI focuses on big ideas, patterns, and possibilities. Some questions that they would ask are, what are the patterns at work here? What are the big concepts that I'm looking at? For my second letter on my MBTI is an N. People with the letter N often have gut feelings or sudden realizations about people or situations, not because they can read minds, but because they subconsciously notice patterns and emotional cues that others miss. The N pushes them to look for deeper meaning in everything: conversations, relationship, work, even art or dreams. They often feel most fulfilled when they're discussing ideas that touch on purpose, growth, or human behavior. For this, I really feel this because I feel like this part of my MBTI really speaks a lot about me and my personality in general. For example, I'm a psychology major. I picked psychology because I was very interested in trying to understand other people, trying to find the deeper meaning in why we behave the way that we do, even if it is subconsciously or consciously. And I find a lot of fulfillment and voice when I get to analyze other people's thoughts and behaviors towards me, and maybe if I misunderstood it and stuff like that. The second letter in my MBTI is N. The second letter in my MBTI is N. People with the letter N often have gut feelings or sudden realizations about people or situations, not because they can read minds, but because they subconsciously notice patterns and emotional cues that others miss. The N pushes them to look for deeper meaning in everything: conversations, relationship, work, even art or dreams. They often feel most fulfilled when they're discussing ideas that touch on purpose, growth, or human behavior. I can 100% agree to this, and I can now see when I'm thinking about it why N is so relevant to my personality. I chose psychology as my major and also communications as my minor because the root of what I want to study is just to understand human behavior and to understand the subconscious level that not a lot of us tap into. And I think this part of my personality really, really advocates for this. I don't know if you guys have ever searched up your dreams, but your dreams, especially when it's a very scary one or it's a very happy one, or if it's something like all your teeth are falling out, all these dreams subconsciously is telling you something. And whether you tune into that and actually listen to what your dreams are telling you, you don't really know what kind of mental state you're in. For example, I've had a dream where all my teeth fell out, and it was a horrible dream. It was something that like stayed with me past my dream, almost as if it was like something that was real. And afterwards, when I searched up what this dream means, it explained a lot. It explained a lot about my subconscious. It explained a lot about my fears, about what's been on my mind and what's really been bothering me. And because of that, because I become self-aware of like the subconscious emotion that I'm really keeping trapped inside of me, it makes me more aware of the things that I can do to go against it, to not feel this ridden anxiety in my daily life that maybe it isn't in my forefront, but at the back of my mind, it is subconsciously affecting me very heavily. The third letter in your MBTI indicates how you make your decisions. You can either get an F or a T. F is for feelings, and T is for thinking. For F, they make decisions based on emotions, personal values, and the impact on others. Something that they might ask themselves is, what value do I give something? Is it good or bad? Do I like it or do I dislike it? On the other hand, T personality types make decisions based on logic and objectivity. Something that they would ask themselves is, does it make sense? Does it work? Is it really true? Everyone uses both every day, but the difference is in which one an individual prefers over the other. For me, the third letter in my MBTI is F, which means that I use my feelings and personal values to guide my decisions. I often ask questions such as, what feels right, or how will this affect others, rather than what's the most efficient or logical. I don't think this is irrational thinking. Rather, I am choosing to prioritize harmony, compassion, and authenticity over cold analysis. Lastly, the fourth letter indicates how you prefer to live your outer life. You can either get J or P. J stands for judging and P stands for perceiving. For J personality types, it is very similar to deciding. So J personality types prefer structure, they prefer order, and making decisions. When making observation, J types don't want to take in a lot, but rather they choose to limit it and only take a few number of observations. On the other hand, for perceiving, it's similar to observing. P personality types prefer flexibility, spontaneity, and keeping options open. Generally, when they are making decisions, they're looking at themselves first and foremost. A question that they may ask is, what do I think is the right decision here? For me, the last letter in my MBTI is J. To put it all together, my MBTI is an INFJ. INFJs with a judging preference feel more comfortable when things are organized, planned, and decided. They prefer to know what's coming, have a sense of control, and stick to commitments. Even though I am a creative dreamer, Thanks to the N in my MBTI, the J side helps me turn visions into actions. So, even after all this amazing insight and a deep dive into your unique personality, maybe you're just not too convinced. So how about we talk about how this information will help you with your interpersonal relationships? I would say one of the biggest benefits of MBTI is self-awareness. When you know your type, you start to see why you act or react the way you do. For example, if you're an introvert, you might finally realize why social gatherings drain you, and that's not a flaw, it's just how you recharge. Or if you're a judging type, you might understand why you get anxious when plans change last minute. This kind of self-knowledge helps you communicate your needs more clearly and take responsibility for how you show up in relationships. Next, MBTI can improve how we communicate. People with different ways of expressing themselves. Next, MBTI can improve how we communicate. People have different ways of expressing themselves, and it's easy to assume others think the same way we do. For instance, thinkers tend to be logical and direct, while feelers value empathy and tone. If you're a thinker dating a feeler, you might not realize your straightforward honesty would come across as cold. And if you're a feeler thinking, cut. Next, MBTI can improve how we communicate. People have different ways of expressing themselves, and it's easy to assume others think the same way we do. For instance, thinkers tend to be logical and direct, while feelers value empathy and tone. If you're a thinker dating a feeler, you might not realize that your straightforward honesty could come across as cold. And if you're a feeler talking to a thinker, you might take their bluntness too personally. When you understand these differences, you can adjust your approach, and that's where real understanding begins. MBTI also teaches empathy. It reminds us that people aren't difficult, they're just different. Let's say you're an organized, structured, judging type, and your friend is more go-with-the-flow perceiver. Instead of getting frustrated when they're late or indecisive, you can recognize that spontaneity. MBTI also teaches empathy. It reminds us that people aren't difficult, they're different. Let's say you're an organized, structured, judging type, and your friend is more go-with-the-flow perceiver. Instead of getting frustrated when they're late or indecisive, you can recognize that spontaneity is just part of who they are. This awareness helps with conflict resolution too. When tensions come up, you can pause and think, okay, are we arguing because of a personality difference? Or is this something more? Maybe your friend needs space to process, or maybe they need reassurance instead of logic. Understanding that can change the entire tone of a disagreement. Finally, MBTI helps us see strengths in each other. Some people bring structure, others brings creativity. Some listen deeply, others take initiative. Cut. Finally, MBTI helps us see strengths in each other. Some people bring structure, others bring creativity. Some listen deeply, others take initiative. When we stop expecting everyone to think and act like us, relationships start to feel a lot more peaceful and a lot more authentic. So the next time someone asks you for your MBTI cut. So the next time someone tells you their MBTI type, don't brush it off so quickly. Use it as a window into how they see the world. The goal isn't to label people, it's to understand them better. And with that, thank you guys for listening to Existential Espresso. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share with a friend who loves personality tests as much as you do, and don't forget to tune in for next week's episode. Bye!